friends, and happy Thanksgiving! Today is the 27th of November, the Thursday, the last Thursday of the month, and I am so excited because this is one of my favorite days. I love Thanksgiving so much, and it's not the idea of where it comes from. I'm Native American, so of course not, but I do love the idea of what Thanksgiving is all about in the sense of what we create it to be. This is spending time with friends and family, telling each other why we're thankful for each other, and being very appreciative of the things we have and the people we have near. And I wanted to say I'm thankful for you. I honestly am. I've had a very crazy year, but being here with you guys, being able to create this community has been so wonderful and so great. And thank you so much for just being who you are. Thank you for being you. And so for as a little tiny thank you gift, I thought I would go out and encourage you to go buy some new books. I'm kidding, but I thought it would be really nice to kind of share some books that I loved reading in the winter time. I think some of us are looking for that cozy book, or maybe that book that just pulls us in for the winter months. I know this month can be really cold. I mean, it is December, unless you're living in one of those countries where it's very warm, like Australia, Thailand, some other lands. And so I know that some of us are just looking for that cozy book, even if it's just because it's cozy outside or because we want a cozy feeling inside. So let's go ahead and talk about some books. Today is Thanksgiving, so I'm going to try to make this video quick because we still have a lot of prep to do. It's just Michael and myself at home, but we're still celebrating. We still have turkey in the fridge, we still have pie on the counter, and we still have a lot of prep to do. So grab yourself something tasty and lovely warm to drink. I'm drinking out of my fun little, one of my favorite little gingerbread cups, and I have a little bit of sweetener in it too. Spekulatius sweetener, which is very tasty. But let's get to the books. So I have 5 books that I recommend that I've read before and I think are perfect for the winter season, different feelings, and I have 3 books that I'm wanting to read. So I hope that's okay with you. So let's get started. The first one is technically 2 books, but I'm going to count it as 1 book because of the feelings I get from them. The first one's going to be The Days at the Morisaki Bookshop by Satoshi Yagisawa. This is such a lovely, warm, and cozy book. If you're looking for a book that is perfect to sit inside on a rainy or snowy day, or just on a day where you want to feel a little bit cozier, this is really going to be the perfect one for you. It's very slow, but it's also very heartwarming. We follow a young woman who has just found out on the first or second page, I believe, that her partner is marrying somebody else. So this is not a spoiler, but we follow her journey of just trying to get out of her funk and trying to figure out her purpose and trying to find a love. And not a love for a person, but a love for life. And it's very sweet, it's very encouraging, and it's just one of those books where you're going to be rooting for the main character at all times. I really loved it. I found it absolutely perfect for the season, and it's one of those books that you're not going to want to put down and you're going to want to just keep reading and you're going to think about often. I have not read the second book yet. I'm very curious on the second book, so if you've read it, let me know if I should pick it up. But if you've not read the first one, I highly recommend it. It's just so sweet. And the second book I'm going to recommend, now you know it's not the second book of this one, the second book I'm going to recommend that creates those same feelings is The Kamigawa Food Detectives by Hisashi Kashiwe. This is also one of those books that's just going to be so sweet, so freaking lovely. We end up following 2 people who own a restaurant. It's a father and daughter duo, and they own a restaurant where they're detectives on trying to find recipes that enact feeling and memories from people who come in. For example, if you have a memory of a dish that your great-great-grandpa used to make, and you have this recollection of how it used to taste and how it used to make you feel and everything like that. Well, this father and daughter duo go out and try to find the recipe and recreate it for you. So that way when you taste that first bite, you're transported back to that time of when you had that meal with your great-great-grandfather or whoever made that meal. Even if it was just a moment of memory. For example, you've traveled somewhere and you've tasted something and it was absolutely delicious. And you think back to that moment often. They go out and go do detective work to figure out what that recipe was. It is so sweet, so lovely, and probably one of my favorite food books ever. Don't be surprised if you're hungry after every page. But I really, really like this book, and I really like this one as well. So I put these together because they're both just so sweet, so cozy, and absolutely perfect. And you could probably finish it within a week. So, I mean, getting both of them is not a bad thing. The next one I have is going to be a very big detour, a very large detour. This is going to be for the horror fans, the ones that like a little bit of woo in the winter months. And I don't think this is going to be a very big surprise for very many people. I've recommended this one a couple times, and that's going to be Stephen King, The Shining. I think this was such a cool and mysterious book. It's a little creepy, but not a lot creepy. And it just adds that like little bit of weirdness and funkiness that makes you feel a little bit like, oof, I need to get under my blanket and read this book. It's very spooky, but also not too spooky for those of us who may want to read a little bit of horror but don't want to be scared to go to sleep. I thought this was such a creative book. I don't read a lot of Stephen King. His novels are normally a little bit too much for me, but this was actually a lot of fun. I really liked the fact that we follow these characters. We're trying to learn about these characters. We follow Jack, who is just a very interesting, intriguing man, and we follow his wife and his young son who end up going to a hotel to take care of the hotel overwintering. And it is just so fascinating, and it's interesting to see where their minds go when there's nothing to do. So I highly recommend this one for anybody who's looking for a little bit of a horror for these winter months, but also looking for a little bit of a little funky, weird book also for these winter months. Also a great first book of Stephen King to read. I think this is a great introduction to his writing to see if you would like to read any of his other novels. The next one I'm going to talk about is one I read last year and I really liked. I thought it was so sweet and so whimsical, and that's The Bear and the Nightingale by Katrina Adrian. This one's going to be perfect for those people who are wanting a little bit of a bigger book, a little bit about folklore, and a little bit about maybe a little bit of romance. This is very sweet, but also very mysterious, very funky. We follow a young girl who is living in this small village, and she's pretty much witnessing her small village fall apart. She's not in the sense of like crumbling apart, but these families are struggling for food during the winter months. They're struggling at surviving during the winter months. And there are these trolls, I would say, who are helpful and kind and do things for you to help around the house, unless you make them angry. And that's just a small itty bitty tiny part of this folklore story. We end up following a stepmother story with a young girl. We end up following also the relationship between a father and a daughter. We follow a relationship between a girl and the woods. It is a very intriguing story with a lot of wonderful imagery, and I absolutely loved the feeling of this book. I thought it was one of those books that actually make you feel a little cold and make you question a few things. And I love the folklore. It is based on some Russian folklore, which I thought was also really fascinating because it got me introduced to different folklore from around the world. And it was just such an intriguing and captivating read. So if you're looking for something that's a little bit more mystical, a little longer, and a little bit more funky again, then I highly recommend The Bear and the Nightingale. And one of the really short books I'm going to recommend, this is one that I read a couple years ago, but I still think about quite often, and that's Cold Enough for Snow by Jessica Au. And this is going to be one of those novels that you're going to read maybe in 2-3 sittings. I know it's short, but the story is quite heavy, and this is going to be one of those novels, one of those novellas that you're going to read and think a lot about your own life and your own relationships and what they mean and what they are. This is a short story about a mother and a daughter and their relationship and what their relationship looks like and where it's progressed and where it's not progressed. This book is not necessarily sweet, but it is definitely thought-provoking and a novel that I think is beneficial for a lot of people to read. I don't want to say too much because it's a very short novella, and I don't want to give away anything that is important to know, but I do think it's worth reading. The next book I'm going to recommend is probably not a surprise. This book gets recommended pretty much a lot of wintry feelings of books and feelings, books that you should read in winter, books that you do need to read in winter, books that are winter. and Dark Academia. And now you're probably thinking, I know what book Melissa's talking about. And if you don't, that's completely okay, because then you have to read The Secret History by Donna Tart. This book is going to be one of those books that is just going to be really odd. It's going to be your first introduction probably into Dark Academia, the true quintessential idea of what Dark Academia was and is. And this is going to be one of those books that you're going to be confused and almost hate a lot of the characters, at least I did, and you're also going to be trying to figure out what Henry and Charles is doing at all times, and what's the point of Bunny, and who are all of these people, and what are they doing, and why are they studying Greek at a university? I think this is one of those books that I think a lot of people should read because of, one, how it's written. It's really written in one of those ways where it's so fascinating and so convincing and just provoking in certain moments, and the way characters are written, it's almost like a realization, in my opinion, a realization of how we shouldn't act. And this is one of those books that's kind of talked about quite a bit, and I don't want to offend anybody or do anything that's going to make you think, Melissa is wrong. This is just my opinion on this book, but I like to kind of refocus on the fact that this is a satirical book. This is one of those books that is just looking at this dark academia style, the study of Greek, and how ridiculous some of these things were, and how just ridiculous some of these characters were. And it's a very weird focus on something that feels dead, but feels mysterious and almost tangible. And I know that sounds so odd, but this is one of those books where I was reading it and I was just flabbergasted most of the time. And I was thinking to myself, why are you doing this? So I do find this book written so well. I do find it really fascinating, and I found it so captivating at times. And it is a thick book, but it is a fast read, and I just highly recommend picking it up because it's going to be a novel that you're going to put down and you're going to think to yourself, what did I just read? And then you're going to want to talk to everybody about it because you're going to want to see what they thought and how your feelings intermix with that. You're going to want to start a book club. You're going to want to understand this novel. So I actually thought this was a great winter novel. I thought this was one of those novels where I was like, okay, I now need to talk to everybody I know about this book. And that's why I understand there's so many YouTubers that talk about this novel. It's not because it's the best novel in the world. It's just one of those novels that make you think a little bit. And it is a very good novel. I'm not against that. I think it is a very good novel. But it is definitely one of those novels that leaves you cold at times as well. So this is my last recommendation of books I have read. I think all 5 of these novels are interesting and intriguing and lovely in their own way. So if you're looking for a book to buy this winter and to kind of get sucked into, then I think all 5 of these are really worth it. 5.5. How about we say 5.5? And I would recommend any of these over and over again because they're just so interesting. And these are 5 very different novels. So we have Dark Academia. We have thought-provoking and oof. We have folklore and whimsical. We have cozy and sweet and just full of heart. And we have our last one, which is going to be a little bit more horror and a little bit more weird. So these are my 5 I recommend, 5.5 I recommend for winter months. The 3 that I'm actually quite interested in reading are ones, as you can imagine, I have not read, but I think could be also really great reads for these months. And it's based on the fact of what I've heard about them, what I've kind of been told about them, and why I think they're interesting. So the first one is going to be The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin. I really hope I pronounced that correctly. This is going to be a sci-fi adventure. It is supposed to be odd and funky. It takes place on a world that's not our own, with characters and beings that aren't necessarily human. They have no one sex, so they're able to change their sex for what they need, which I find super fascinating. And we follow a human character who's on this land and learning about these people, or these beings, if you want to say it that way. This is supposed to be very fascinating and such a great read. I'm looking forward to picking this one up just because of how weird it sounds. And I love the idea of being on a different world and learning about them. One of the books I really liked is Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy because of the weirdness. And I feel like this is a darker version of that. So I'm looking forward to picking this one up. If you've read it, let me know, and let me know what your thoughts were, but no spoilers. The next one I want to read is Norwegian Wood by Haruki Murakami. This one's, it's been told that we jump in time and we travel in time, but it's not your normal time travel type of novel. Instead, we're jumping through time, so we start in one point of life and another point of life. So we're actually staying in one person's life, but viewing it from different times. It's supposed to be quite fascinating, like the other books I've read. I use fascinating way too often, I do apologize, but it is supposed to be quite intriguing. Another word I use too many times. I need to read more to come up with new words. It is supposed to be interesting. But this one is one of those novels where I've heard it's hard to put down. It's a great kind of novel from Murakami, and it's one of those novels that kind of is not an introduction to his writing, but another book to pick up before you pick up some of his like 1,000-page books. It's not a novel I know very much about, but I do know it creates one of those feelings that's not necessarily cozy, oh, I'm going to warm up and cozy up and enjoy this book and it's going to make me feel good, but it's going to be one of those novels that we follow a gentleman in his life and just learn different parts about it. So if you really like kind of learning about different lives and learning about different moments and different situations in somebody else's life, then I think this could be a good book for you, because this is one of the reasons why I want to pick it up as well. But maybe I'm wrong. I haven't read it yet. And the last one is going to be very different from any of the books I've recommended here. And that's because I don't know very much about this one. I've only read the back just now. This has been a book that's been sitting on my bookshelf for a very long time, and I picked it up specifically because the name is... Yeah? Oh. I picked it up specifically because the name is Light on Snow. And I was like, oh, that sounds wintry. And this one's by Anita Shreva. It's hard to read the name on the side because there is a little sticker. But I don't know anything about this book. I had it on my bookshelf, I picked it up, and I was like, oh, this looks very wintry. And it sounds also like one of those books that's going to be a little bit upsetting, but upsetting in a way that's going to make you want to keep reading. And I know that sounds so odd, but if you know, you know. But I want to read the back to you because I thought this book actually sounded really, really well thought out in the sense of encouraging me to read it, and I understand why I bought it whenever I bought it and put it on my bookshelf. So, what makes a family? That's what a 12-year-old Nikki Dillon wonders after she had a widowed father discover a wailing abandoned baby in the snow-filled woods near their New Hampshire home. Through the days that follow, the Dillons and the unexpected visitor who soon turns up at their door, a young woman evidently haunted by her own troubling choices, face a thicket of decisions, each seeming to carry equal possibilities of heartbreak or redemption. Writing with the emotional resonance that has drawn millions of readers around the world to her fiction, Anita Shreva unfolds in Light on Snow, a tender and surprising novel about love and its consequences. I know that sounds quite depressing, but for some reason, these are the books I kind of turn towards quite a bit during this season. I either go with cozy, warm-hearted, Lebkuchen, gingerbread house type of novels where I feel like I'm going to cry of happiness at the end, or I turn to books that are going to pull my heart out and make me really understand what love and family and friends really mean to me. And I'm looking forward to reading this one. Also, it was only 75 cents. I wonder if it's worth more in the sense of like what I get out of it. Anyway, those are my 3 extra books that I'm wanting to read. I don't know if I'm going to get to them, but I can want to read them. But those are my 8.5 books that I think are perfect for the winter season. I know a lot of us are looking for that book that's going to really pull us through the winter months, those cold months, and make us feel like we are being productive at times. And I think these books are all going to be really lovely and one of a kind, and books that are going to be different for each person. I love doing recommendations that are filled with different genres, because that means maybe you pick up a genre that, one, you wouldn't normally read, or maybe two, you find a book that you wouldn't normally find. So I do hope you guys found a book that you're wanting to read. If you did, let me know in the comments below. I would love to know if any of these recommendations sound interesting to you. And I would love your recommendations as well. I'm sure others would love to read them. So if you have any recommendations for me as well, put them in the comments below. I would love to read your books. We all have next year, and of course, winter doesn't just end at the end of December. I need books for also January and February too. So let me know your books. I would love to read them, and I hope you have a fantastic Thanksgiving. Again, I am thankful for you guys so much. You guys are amazing, and this community is just amazing. So thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging out with me, and I hope you have a fantastic Thanksgiving or just a fantastic Thursday, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Until then, ciao!